You ever hear the story of the Fisher King?
No.
It begins with the king as a boy, having to spend the night alone in the forest to prove his courage so he can become king. Now, while he's spending the night alone, he's visited by a sacred vision. Out of the fire appears the Holy Grail, symbol of God's divine grace. And a voice said to the boy, "You shall be keeper of the Grail so that it may heal the hearts of men." But the boy was blinded by greater visions of a life filled with power and glory and beauty. And in this state of radical amazement, he felt for a brief moment not like a boy, but invincible, like God. So he reached in the fire to take the Grail, and the Grail vanished, leaving him with his hand in the fire to be terribly wounded. Now, as this boy grew older, his wound grew deeper, until one day, life for him lost its reason. He had no faith in any man, not even himself. He couldn't love or feel loved. He was sick with experience. He began to die.
Welcome to A Neat Retelling, the podcast where we explore all the ways old tales are made new. I'm your host, Jasmine Garcia, and joining me today are...
Hello there, Leif Bradshaw. Apologies for the downgrade in audio quality yet again, but I'm out here cloud busting right now, looking up at the sky, seeing if I can move the clouds with my mind. So you'll have to deal with that this time.
I'm Gillian, and I'm confused. Where's the fish?
And our Wish episode guest of honor himself.
I am Grady Smithy, and I am relatively indifferent to New York in June.
And we are talking about Grady's first wish that he has done, The Fisher King, the 1991 film directed by Terry Gilliam and starring Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams, which is a take on a lesser-known aspect of Arthurian legend, I suppose. I mean, we've all heard of the Holy Grail, but specifically the Fisher King, not so much.
Greetings, I am IER60, Star Wars Retelling Connections. Point of intersection found. This is a degree 5, featuring multiple crew from the original and prequel trilogies, The Last Jedi, Rogue One, Solo, The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Andor, and Ahsoka. Uncredited amendment found. Harry Shearer played sitcom actor Ben Starr in this and was an uncredited ADR lip group in A New Hope. Additional Oscar material found. The Fisher King won for Best Supporting Actress at the 64th Academy Awards.
So the question must be, Grady, so why the Fisher King?
I didn't see this when it was originally in the movies because I had no job and no money, but then some years later, I was at my local video rental place and saw it and said, oh yeah, it's that movie by Terry Gilliam that I've been meaning to see. And I took it home and immediately fell in love with it because it's about love and loss and trauma. And I swear to God, guys, it is a comedy, but...
So much so that Ellie is trying to convince our friend River to cover it on The Straights Aren't All Right.
I was not going through a good time when I found the movie, which I think was actually a plus. And it was a time in my life when I was feeling broken and like there was something irreparably wrong with me. And this movie about other people who felt that way, but who found a way to come out the other side. It was an inspiration. Sometimes you don't find a movie when it's originally out. You find it at the time when you need it most. And this is one of mine.
That is truly beautiful. And that sort of thing is a special thing. And I have to say, this is a very special movie. This was actually my first time ever watching it. First time ever hearing it was when you Actually, no, that's not true. Ellie had recommended it to me at one point, saying I would probably have liked it, but then you made it your wish, and I was like, okay, well, clearly I need to see it if two of my friends are recommending it. And yeah, I just want to preface this with thank you. Genuinely thank you, because I don't know when I would have gotten around to it without this, and I'm really glad I've seen it now.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too. I'd seen this film a couple of times myself, and this might be my favorite of all of the films Terry Gilliam has directed, honestly. At least directed solo. Monty Python and the Holy Grail is kind of a special exception.
No, that's fair. But speaking of, and with that all in mind, what is everyone's connection to Arthurian legend in general?
I was a kid who read a lot, and I discovered the Arthurian legends, fell in love with the whole concept. I mean, was already interested in the whole knights and kings and everything, but just the whole saga of Arthur rising up from a young nobody to become king, establishing a golden age, and then seeing it all crumble, that sort of thing was exactly what I was looking for at the time. And then discovering that there are so many side legends, it seems like there's always at least one more story that you can find out there somewhere that you haven't read yet. I love that.
Most recently, I found out about the one knight that was technically a werewolf. So, yeah, I hear that. Editor Jasmine here, that would be Sir Marok, and I do hope we get to talk a little bit more about him someday because I am intrigued. Like, yes, Arthurian werewolf, let's go.
I probably saw The Sword in the Stone as a kid, and I just kind of spiraled from there. I love me some high fantasy. Yeah, sorry.
Don't apologize.
Kind of anticlimactic.
Nope, it's cool. We are here to just discuss our, connections to it. How about you, Leif?
Well, admittedly, in my case, it was mostly via pop culture detritus, almost, or at least stuff that would reference the material with which I became most aware of things. Like, naturally, I was familiar with names from the story. You hear titles like King Arthur, or Sir Lancelot, or Queen Guinevere, or Mordred, or The Sword and the Stone. You hear about these plenty growing up in, I think, a lot of the world. It's hard to escape it somewhere, even if you have no idea what the context is. But as far as actual exposure to that material goes, it's so funny to think that technically my introduction was Magic Treehouse.
Oh, yeah!
Yep.
I hate that was a blind spot, but also, yeah, pop cultural osmosis is a hell of a drug.
Yeah,
as our dear friend River says.
Yeah, because it's revealed in the fourth book of that now, how many books long that series now is, that the Magic Treehouse is literally the property of the sorceress Morgan Le Fay. So.
Yep. Yeah, I think the Magic Treehouse books might have been my first exposure as well. There's also like this middle grade novel called I Am Morgan Le Fay, which, I had read this before I saw Wicked, but it is basically Wicked for Morgan Le Fay. Right down to the fact that she has a different appearance that sets her apart from the crowd. And a lost love. Oh my god.
I wonder what
money. Who owes who money, I guess, is the question.
Truly. But as far as, actual depictions of the Arthurian legend in pop culture go, I do remember reading the Sword in the Stone portion of Once and Future King when I was in middle school at some point, and it wasn't until my early 20s that I actually saw the Disney version of it, believe it or not. Before then, I had seen the 1998 miniseries Merlin, which had an all-star cast.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember watching that with Sam Neill as Merlin, and Helena Bonham Carter as Morgan Le Fay, and Queen Mab, played by Miranda Richardson, sounding like smoked her entire life.
I'm still confused by the lisp that Helena Bonham Carter had as Morgan.
And also the stone that the Sword in the Stone comes out of is sentient in that version. He's a CGI rock biter voiced by James Earl Jones.
Oh.
So when I mention Merlin as far as pop culture goes, I'm not talking about the BBC series, though I did see bits and pieces of that too. No, for me it was the 1998 miniseries with Sam Neill.
Yeah, the BBC series was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Hey, I was there for the heyday of Tumblr fandoms regarding TV shows that were about fantasy, so even though I didn't really watch the series, I kind of did anyway, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, I hear you. There's a lot of shows like that. If you are tumbling down Tumblr, I feel like.
Exactly. It was for similar reasons that I knew about BBC Sherlock with Bandicoot Cumberbund long before I actually saw any full episode of the series. And then I found out that apparently it didn't end very well, so I didn't decide to commit to it. So
We don't have time to talk about that, especially since technically it's eligible for this podcast. Yeah. But yeah, no, BBC Merlin was kind of the next thing I really got into. And boy, howdy, did I get into it, because I was actually, I've talked about this before. I was part of basically a role playing group that was basically magic school, but with fairy tale and mythological characters. And a couple of them did, in fact, play that version of Merlin and Arthur, because that was kind of tailor made for that. And of course, they leaned into the queer subtext of that.
it's kind of hard to avoid when you're doing anything that involves a setting like this, quite frankly. At least as far as I can tell. It's hard to play it super straight, quite frankly. And even if you try, you end up kind of pulling a 359-degree angle as a result.
And we've also talked about The Green Knight on this podcast before. I've also seen Holy Grail a couple of times, so I am very aware of the basics of Arthurian legend. I still have not seen Sword in the Stone, though. I really do need to get around to that at some point.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's more or less what I've heard. I like the idea of this world and what you can really do with it to play with it. And this is definitely one of the more unique examples of that, because not only is it a modernization, it's kind of almost a commentary on Arthurian legend itself, and it's making it all about, hey, you gotta try to be vulnerable and less cynical in order to be happy.
Honestly, remarkably timeless message in a lot of respects, the fact that seems to be the moralizing that we're getting in here, because, yeah, I mean, quite frankly, when we first meet our main character played by Jeff Bridges, I remember just thinking, we're not supposed to like this guy, right? Because he is such a horrific misanthrope at the beginning.
Yeah, no, and karma gets him good pretty quickly, and I knew the basics of what I was getting into when I wanted to watch this. I was just like, oh, this movie's gonna have to work real hard to make me buy into this man's redemption arc, and miraculously, yeah, kinda. It did it. I was a little concerned, but they kinda did it.
Right? Like, because the inciting incident is basically Jeff Bridges commits a stochastic terrorism.
It isn't just that. It's that one of his listeners who calls in and that he regularly abuses and mocks and belittles is talking about how he's infatuated with this woman that goes to this fashionable place, and Jeff goes into this rant about how he hates yuppie scum and somebody should do something about it. And then his listener decides that he's going to be somebody.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about this is it's a movie about forgiveness in the sense of what does it take for you to believe that you actually deserve forgiveness, which makes the whole thing where Jeff Bridges' character, is rehearsing this scene for the starring role in a sitcom that he's up for, where the catchphrase is, well, forgive me. And he keeps trying all these different ways of asking for forgiveness to the empty air, as his listener is taking what he said in the worst possible way and doing the thing that makes him feel that he doesn't deserve forgiveness.
It's sort of BoJack Horseman in a way.
Ooh, I see the connection, yeah.
Like, I was thinking, like, the prevalence of the forgive me with season 2's through line of what are you doing here?
Yeah, I can see that.
That's an excellent point.
I was about to more superficially comment how this is also kind of O Brother Where Art Thou, in the sense that it is modernizing and somewhat deconstructing an antiquity narrative, because O Brother Where Art Thou is loosely inspired by the Odyssey, the way this is loosely inspired by the Fisher King fable of the Arthurian legend.
And, like, this movie does not do subtle, and I love that it doesn't do subtle. It works very well for what it's going for. As soon as he started repeating, forgive me, I'm just like, message! And I will say, because, like, the description of the film mentioned that the listener commits suicide, it did not mention the murder part, and I was just like, oh, fuck, okay. Was not expecting that, but Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it was worse. It was a murder-suicide.
Yeah, it was the kind of mass shooting that, unfortunately, 5 years later would start becoming all the more common around these parts.
I really wish you weren't right about that. No, yeah, so Jack has the offhand comment. He's just playing to his audience. He's doing the whole Howard Stern trying to shock people thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then his listener actually does it. And 3 years later, he has lost his fancy apartment, his high-paying job, and his glamorous girlfriend. And he's just sort of drifting through life because he doesn't know how to live right now, but he can't quite bring himself to be willing to die.
/oh no, consequences.
Yeah, I was gonna say, not to be too flippant, but it really does feel like, wow, for the first time in history, cancel culture actually got somebody for real.
Honestly, it was hard to feel sympathy for him for a while because it was very much you kind of brought this on yourself, buddy.
Yeah, and it's just like, and you're not really acknowledging the harm that was caused by this. All he can think about is how it's affected him. Then he runs into Robin Williams after he attempts suicide and then almost gets murdered by some gang members. And Robin Williams' character, Perry, he basically gathers up a bunch of his fellow unhoused people to scare and fight off these gang members, which, absolutely wild. Where is Perry's comic book series, I ask you?
Truly, the hero we deserve.
And the one we need right now, I would argue.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And goodness knows, I wish that I could hear more stories about something like that happening in New York City alone, because my goodness. I mean, I loved visiting New York when I did, but there are so many problems that it seems like nobody really wants to fix even. At least not the people who have the power to actually do it.
Ain't that always the way?
Yeah, gentrification, homelessness. I feel like I'm going on. Okay. Like, the new mayor seems to be a actually decent guy.
Yep, nope. We are cautiously fans of Zoran around here.
We'll see how things go for him, for sure. I'm rooting for him, too.
Fisher King would make a good double feature with this most recent Superman.
Ooh,
Yes.
yeah, I see it.
Because they're both about the value of kindness.
Like I said, it's about having to be vulnerable and having to let go of your cynicism in order to find joy. And through Perry and Jack's friendship, that is what happens. And it's so... I was genuinely shocked by how moved I was by this whole thing. It's a grumpy sunshine friendship, really. That's what it is, even though the sunshine has some darkness of his own.
Yeah.
Oh boy, and when we learn exactly what got Robin Williams where he did, like, we learn pretty early on how he ended up where he is at the point we meet him, but when we find out just how deep the trauma goes, oh my god.
Yep, we find out from his landlords that the very shooting that ruined Jack's career out and out made Perry lose his wife. And we're going a little forward here, but when we flash back to the moment where he remembers what happened, they held no bars. It was genuinely horrifying to see.
Oh yeah, for sure. And of course, because it's a Terry Gilliam movie, we got to add some extra symbolic imagery on top of it that's very literal in its presentation in the movie while still being clearly a metaphor within context, with the whole bit with the Red Knight. Like, very Gilliam-esque imagery to do that, but again, it doesn't feel ridiculous in the moment ever. It feels genuinely frightening in those moments.
It's so effective. And honestly, I want to see more stylization from that, especially from creators that I don't have to have complicated feelings about, because as talented as he is, unfortunately, Gilliam is also an asshole. Most of the Pythons are these days, and it sucks.
Yeah, it really is unfortunate.
This was a thing that I wanted to revisit later, so thank you for setting this up. The design of the Red Knight with all the ragged flags hanging off of the armor and the fire billowing out from the forehead is an incredibly terrifying image. But then when you go through the flashback and you finally realize Robin Williams is being pursued by the sight of his wife being murdered directly in front of him. It wasn't until after I'd seen it for the first time, I forget exactly when, but the sudden realization that Gillian didn't design the Red Knight just because it would look scary. It is actually how his mind is processing the sight of his wife dying an inch in front of his face. up to the
Yeah,
fire
like, 'cause
billowing
this-
out of the
this-
forehead. Up to the fire billowing out of the forehead.
No, exactly. No, this wasn't just something where, there's like a single bullet wound in her heart or something and she dies beautifully. No, half her face is gone. Like, it's horrifying, and it's just like, no wonder that broke him so badly.
Yeah, like he was literally catatonic in the aftermath of that. I don't blame him.
No, the fact he was able to find any sort of optimism after all that is genuinely a miracle, even if it is by essentially going to kind of a fantasy world in his head.
Well, yeah, he thought that if he could be the fool who found the Grail, he could heal himself. But he needed someone else to be the fool for him. And so did
And it ultimately works. Sort of.
Sort of. They trade places a lot for, like, who's the king and who's the fool.
Yeah.
For sure.
Each one is the king to himself and the fool to the other.
Exactly, and I think a lot of good adaptations kind of address that. There are some Beauty and the Beast adaptations that acknowledge that they're both kind of each other's beasts and each other's beauties as well. And I think that kind of role reversal on both ends is really interesting. Ideally, they are both kind of helping each other, and that is what they're doing, especially once Jack gets kind of roped into playing matchmaker.
Honestly, that whole plot was adorable. I adored that.
That could have gone so wrong in so many ways, since one could argue that Perry's kind of following Lydia, and
stalking.
One could argue that it could have reached harassment levels, but it never feels like that in this movie, and that is such a hard line to walk with any kind of... This is a rom-com, even though it is a tragic rom-com, I guess, is the best word for it.
But it is impressive how it never felt creepy to me.
I was gonna say it all depends on the actor. If Robin Williams just didn't ooze all that charisma,
God, I miss him. I miss him so much.
I think we all do. Because, like, it's hard to make charming just admitting you, quote, have a heart on the size of Florida.
Right? But he pulled it off. It genuinely made me laugh. It genuinely felt so charming. Kind of the same watery way that she does upon hearing his love confession that feels so sincere.
I know sometimes you feel a little uncoordinated and you don't feel as wonderful as everybody else, and feeling as alone and separate as you feel you are, and I love you. I love you. And I think you're the greatest thing since Spice Racks. And I've been knocked out several times. If I could just have that first kiss, and I won't be distant. I'll come back in the morning and I'll call you if you let me. But I still don't drink coffee.
It was so cute, I was worried I was going to develop type 2.
And part of what I think really makes, his pursuit of Lydia so charming is when he sees her, I think it was in Grand Central Station, it literally turns into almost a ballroom in his head. That has got to be one of the best visual metaphors for what it's like to look at someone you are infatuated with since I last saw Big Fish. And the movie didn't feel the need to spell it out like Big Fish did.
Oh yeah, it is such a beautiful moment.
The film also doesn't just ask you to try and be logical about the whole thing. It very much is just like, yeah, this is how he is seeing things. It doesn't matter if this isn't realistic at all, because we're not looking at things that way. This isn't supposed to feel grounded. I mean, for crying out loud, how many wide-angle lens shots and Dutch angles are in this movie, for crying out loud?
it was the 90s. They were all in vogue.
But Terry Gillian really liked using them, though, even more than many others.
And they were more allowed to be stylistic back then, I feel like.
Yeah. It's such a great scene because it starts off with him following her through the crowd, and then people start dancing and the light takes on this magical quality to it. And it's just the music and everyone in this elaborate ballroom that used to be just Grand Central Station. And then the moment fades and the people who had been dancing part and walk away, and Amanda Plummer, Lydia, vanishes into the crowd, just leaving Perry there smiling.
It's just another example of how Perry is able to see something ordinary and make it something so romantic and big. And, people like that, I think, really do, they can be the shot in the arm you need, especially when you aren't in a good headspace. And I do think Jack really did need somebody like that in his life.
Otherwise, I can't imagine him getting all that better, because it's very well established in the moments leading up to it. Yeah, he is really not doing a lot of mentally healthy things for himself to cope with the consequences of his actions.
Yep, and doing basically no self-reflecting there.
But also, it's clear the social anxiety is pretty intense, because one of the more intense wide-angle close-up moments is when Kathy Najimy gets all up in his face asking about something to rent from the video rental.
No, I was like, Kathy Najimy, what are you doing here?
Always a delight to see in films.
Owning the fucking screen for 2 minutes.
Also, Tom Waits as one of the homeless people we encounter for one scene.
David Hyde Pierce shows up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is a pretty stacked cast.
Yeah, it's another 1990s property where David Hyde Pierce is involved with a self-absorbed person on the radio.
Go figure.
Just saying.
2 nickels.
Yeah, this was pre-Frasier and pre-Hocus Pocus for 2 of these cameos.
Yep. And also, we have Mr. Noodle's brother, Mr. Noodle, as a gender-ambiguous homeless cabaret singer who is absolutely fabulous.
Fuck. Yes.
He is the gayest of gay men, and it's glorious.
Yep, and he even references how he's watched all of his friends die, and it's just like,
no.
Unfortunately, I think we have an idea of how he became homeless.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I feel like that would have also hit a bit close to home with Michael Jeter as well, because he himself was living with AIDS for most of his life, and it wasn't even what ultimately killed him, it was a seizure.
That line, this was less than a decade after the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, and so he doesn't say that that's what all of his friends died for, because he doesn't have to. And Jack realizes what's going on, and you can see the panic in his eyes, but you can also see that, unlike a lot of people would have done at the time, he doesn't push Michael Jeter away. He just continues to hold him there because someone needs him right now.
Yeah, and, he said, man, I sound like a veteran. My father would be so proud. And it's really heartbreaking, especially since he's arguably just as whimsical and likable as Robin Williams is. I mean,
he is.
He dresses in drag and sings a parody of Rose's Turn to Lydia for the fake contest when she won.
I had a dream for guess who, Lydia. It wasn't for her, Lydia. It's only for you, yes, Lydia. Some people can get their kicks watching couple and late night flicks. That's okay for some people who don't own VCRs. But Lydia, you've won a grand prize. Just think of it. All the movies you'll watch for free now. Dramas, westerns, comedies, wow! Video Spot has the best selection. If you like porno, we're your connection. And everything's coming up videos. Everything's coming up videos. But this time for free. For you, Lydia. For free.
And there's some people and a little bit of Rose's Turn, which the power of show tune, the power of Merman.
Really?
The power of theater people.
Right? And somehow, after all that, not a single person applauded? Come on, that was fabulous.
They're boring office people. No disrespect to all of the many amazing, talented women who have done Rose's Turn over the years. But for me, Michael Jeter owns that song.
That's fair. I understand that.
We all have our unconventional faves. Some of them have Chris Colfer as their go-to.
That's fair. That is fair. That is so fair. As complicated as my feelings are about Glee, I will never apologize for appreciating Chris Colfer as a talent.
Absolutely. He also brought us Land of Stories and mwah.
Yeah, they're finally making a movie out of that.
Oh man, that's awesome. But yeah, speaking of shamelessly, flamboyantly gay male countertenors, eh?
Yeah!
Exactly.
Shout out to that Tony's performance of We Raise Our Glass Together. Michael Jeter's in it, and he is giving it his all.
Tonight, we meet one of those guests, the bookkeeper who has checked out of the hospital and into the Grand Hotel, intent on experiencing the good life at least once before he dies. In short order, he discovers wine, women, friendship, and song. All of them in that fabulous place called the Grand Hotel.
We'll take a glass together in celebration of our meeting, in celebration of our being face to face. Friendly, civilized members of the race. I'll drink to you. No, I to you. You'll drink to me. Then you to me. I'm sure we do. Oh, I know we do. But find no finer company. Thank you, Baron. Hey, for one more moment in a world gone cold and crass, we'll take a glass together.
Man.
Choreography, man.
Oh, man.
Indeed. And there is such theater kid energy throughout this whole thing because, yeah, Robin keeps on leading people in And How About You?
Mm-hmm.
Which never fails to be delightful.
And he's just shameless about his antics. Like, he does every time he's being thrown obvious insults at his face, he just takes it and throws it right back in such a charming way where it's just like, oh, I know that. Whatever.
Listen, may we all have that kind of strength when we are being insulted by douchebags.
I have no idea how he manages it, but I'm impressed.
I will say, though, Perry, please stop streaking in Central Park. Not a good idea. Like, I'm with Jack on that one, I'm sorry. Even with his infectious energy, I'm just like, buddy, no.
Especially considering how they met. Like, Jeff Bridges' character Jack, he's already talking about how he's worried they're going to get an even worse repeat of how they met each other. Just a couple of homophobic gang members will just murder them. And yet we still get that beautiful ending scene where the two of them are finally doing it together and just staring up at the sky.
Yep, it is still charming in spite of my misgivings. Again, there's a lot of things in this movie where in a lesser film I would have either rolled my eyes or been like, nope, hard no. But again, this movie's so charming, I wanted to sweep me up into its arms, give me a kiss, and ride me off to its castle.
In the wrong hands, this could have been like pure schmaltz on toast, kind of like Patch Adams, but you need like someone like 1 foot on the ground, 1 foot in the clouds.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like you do need someone like the future director of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas to avoid it getting too treacle while simultaneously not being so cynical that it feels like it's mocking you for getting invested in it.
Yeah, God. Again, really hard line to walk, and I really do feel like this movie does it. And one of the ways it does, I've just got to give them a shout out for casting someone who looks like an ordinary woman, as both women, actually. Like, I could see myself running into Anne or Lydia just on the street, and I appreciate that these two perfectly ordinary but lovely ladies are the objects of desire here.
Right? I appreciate that as well. Mercedes Ruehl, who played Jack's girlfriend, she even won an Oscar for her performance in this.
The only Oscar that any Terry Gilliam movie has won, by the way.
Wow, okay. And no, I absolutely loved Anne as a character. She doesn't take Jack's shit, but still loves him very much. This is another he'll fix himself if he knows what's good for him kind of rom-com, and I love that. And I love that she's like involved with this. She's not just the scolding lady or just the passive, oh, I'll put up with whatever you throw at me, honey, it's okay. No, like, she has an actual character. She gets involved. This movie technically passes the Bechdel test of all things. Yeah, like, right? I know, like, it's a flawed metric, but still it clears it. Like, I love that while obviously this is centered around Jack and Perry, the girls get to bond as well. Very few rom-coms acknowledge that, yeah, we need to get these two together, but also they need friends.
Yeah, that was also honestly a nice little resolution in its own right. Like, I liked that we got to see them actually becoming besties. That was also just so sweet.
And they have such a lovely little double date.
Yeah.
I love solidarity.
Yeah.
And at the end, after all of the series of catastrophes that Lydia has because she's clumsy and awkward, and that Perry joins into in order to make her not feel so bad about it. He starts singing Lydia the Tattooed Lady, and the restaurant manager is just sitting there at the table next to theirs, just listening and sharing in the moment.
I live for moments like that.
It is very rom-com.
It is. Or like the fact that he out and out revokes the idea that she's calling the romance novel she loves trashy. It's like, no, they're not trashy. And it's so refreshing hearing anybody say that, let alone a man. Because as I've said in previous episodes, part of why romance novels and rom-coms are considered lesser than is because women like them, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, granted, there's definitely plenty from both that's terrible, but that doesn't therefore mean we should write off the whole thing as not worth it. I mean, come on. There's tons of great art in those fields. And I mean, it'd be like if someone was similarly dismissive of, I don't know, action schlock being inherently terrible or something. It's just like, I mean, yes, a lot of it is, but there are good ones.
Yeah, but you don't really hear it getting trashed nearly as much, I don't think,
You
unfortunately.
really don't, unfortunately. It's more treated like it's a given rather than something to scorn.
Yep, exactly. And also he then goes on to say, you find such wonderful things in the trash. I'm just like, Perry!
Then holds out the little chair that he made from the wire of a champagne cork.
And I feel like that line really just encapsulates his whole character. He's able to find the good in just about everything.
All right. Like, even during the first scene, we have Jack being, like, basically surrounded by a community of homeless people. It's very much shot and presented in a bit of an off-putting and frightening way, like we're supposed to be a little afraid if he's somehow going to survive the night or something. And even during that scene, Robin Williams, he's just being so charming and so thoughtful and so helpful to him, even through all of that. It's just like, so even then, we're kind of being subconsciously told we shouldn't have to worry about him, even if we wanted to root for him in this moment. We shouldn't have to worry about for him. He's actually not in danger at all. It's just to him it's scary because he's never had to interact with people like this before and has never had to actually think what life might be like for them.
Mm-hmm. And especially in a just got out of the 80s America, I feel like that's it's one of the more subtle messages of this movie, shockingly enough. It's just like, okay, obviously not every homeless person is someone who would come off that way, but also, even if they did come off that way, is that such a crime? Are they not still just people maybe that we should show some empathy towards?
At the very least, try to help.
Again, it is crazy to me that a movie this empathetic and sincere came out of a man that is unfortunately disparaging the Me Too movement and a lot of trans people.
And also treated a child actor like an adult actor in not very great ways, in one case.
Yeah.
It's a shame, really, because Terry Gilliam is such a good director. I just wish he was a better human being.
Wouldn't it be nice? Is it so much to ask for both? Is it so much to ask?
I mean, such people do exist out there. It's just a shame that they really do feel like the exception rather than the rule. Yeah, it's really unfortunate, because, with Gilliam's, Gilliam-isms in this movie, I think they really do serve to enhance making the film a unique experience in a lot of ways. And indeed, I truly am impressed that this is somehow one of the more normal movies of his, but then I have to remind myself, oh, right. I mean, he shows some of the movies he's already directed. In the video rental store, we see a big poster of the Baron Munchausen movie he directed 3 years prior, for instance, in one of the establishing shots.
Oh, I missed that. That's interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, and right afterwards, we see another. We just keep seeing proof that Terry Gilliam has made other movies while we're in the video store. It's I don't know, it's a fun little touch. More egotistical version of all the times that Spielberg shouts out George Lucas in some of his 80s movies.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Or Stan Lee showing up in early Marvel prod, or most of the MCU.
Yeah, up until he passed, yeah.
I'm gonna miss him.
God, yeah.
Is it okay? Is it okay if we miss him?
Yeah.
That, oh my God.
Justice for Jack Kirby.
Well, that too, but also, yeah, God, just the fact that just when it seems like everything's working out, because obviously I was anticipating something to go wrong, because that's how these kinds of movies work.
We still need a third act.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Just when you're at the highest of heights is when everything goes wrong. I just didn't expect it to be, oh, he remembers. Oh, we see him remembering his wife's face being blown off in front of him. And now he's catatonic again.
Oh.
And Jack is regressing.
The all is lost moment.
A part of me was just like, oh, man, do I prefer an Act 2 breakup over this? Because I have been pretty vocal about the fact I do not care for Act 2 breakups, especially if they don't feel earned. But this was emotionally devastating.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Because Perry has finally experienced a moment of true love and happiness again, but doesn't think that he deserves one. By allowing himself to fall fully in love with Lydia and admit it and be loved by her, he's betraying his wife. It's horrific because it launches into the absolutely terrifying flashback scene. But it's the thing that it's the thing that allows him to start healing after he's had a chance to just sort of shut down for a bit.
Because the first time we actually see the Red Knight approach, it's symbolically representing Perry's inability to confront his own trauma, because Jack is basically trying to force him to confront it right then and there, and he obviously starts going into really intense screaming denial about it, and it's at that moment we first see the Red Knight appear. So there's some symbolism there as well about confronting the pain that you've experienced and trying to figure out, how can I possibly keep living with this pain? Yeah, there's just so many layers to it. It's a lot more devastating than your average third act breakup, because honestly, 9 times out of 10 third act breakups in movies are really contrived and are just there because we need to have an all is lost moment before our happy ending is kind of the attitude. With this, it genuinely feels like, oh no, this absolutely would be happening right when you feel like you're on top of the world, if this is what your baggage is.
The dominoes that fell into place to make things work out were also the dominoes necessary to make you have a breakdown, basically. And yeah, then Jack and Anne, of course, are about to break up because Jack's like, things are good for me now. I should be alone. And kudos to Anne for calling him out on his bullshit. Like, she is fully aware of what a flawed man he is and loves him anyway. And I think there's something powerful about that.
So many heartbreakingly beautiful moments of acting in this.
She has seen briefly a glimpse of the man Jack could be if he let himself. And then he just goes back to Jack, the guy on the radio, with his glamorous life and his glamorous apartment and his glamorous girlfriend. God, you feel so bad for Anne, but you have to be glad for her standing up for herself and telling him to get the fuck out of her life if he's going to be this way.
Honestly, to me, the most tragic part of this movie, just referencing something that happens during that regression, is the last time we ever see Michael Jeter, we see him being dragged away by the cops, desperately reaching out to Jack because, like, you know who I am. You know who I am. Don't ignore me. And then we never see him again.
And he even tries to find him after. Yeah, it's just a little late for that, Jack. A little late to have a change of heart there.
Before we get to where he tries to find him, we got to deal with the meeting that he's going into when he completely stubs Michael Jeter. He's meeting with John Delancey, who is playing the embodiment of everything soulless in the entertainment industry.
Oh yeah, he's like the yuppie look. He has the yuppie look.
He's pitching him a sitcom about wise, wacky homeless people, and we're going to call it Home Free.
Yeah, God, talk about tone deaf. That feels like the version of this movie that it could have been, had they not been willing to tackle the darkness of it.
I was thinking, it felt almost like commentary on, man, aren't you glad that's not what this is?
Yeah, it really does.
Well, there's also the matter of Perry being both wacky and wise.
Yeah, which he is. And yes, like, again, Home Free just sounds like a parody of what we're watching, or what it could have ended up being, God forbid.
It could have been a sitcom on Fox in the 1990s.
God. Just very tone deaf, and thankfully that was enough to snap Jack out of it a little bit. Although he does still basically yell at Perry's catatonic state, just like, I don't owe you anything.
He's trying to convince himself that.
Yeah, absolutely, which is why he almost immediately decides, okay, fine, I'm going to get that fucking grail for you.
Since we haven't talked about this yet, we've talked about Amanda Plummer, but I think we really should revisit her speech to Perry at the end of the date.
Yeah.
Where she's talking about how,
You'll probably want to come upstairs for some coffee.
I don't drink coffee.
And we'll probably have a drink and talk and get to know each other a little bit better, get comfortable. And then you'll sleep over. And in the morning you'll awake and you'll be distant and you won't be able to stay for breakfast. Maybe just a cup of coffee.
I don't drink coffee.
And then we'll exchange phone numbers. And you'll leave and never call. And I'll go to work and I'll feel so good for the first hour. And then, ever so slowly, I'll turn into a piece of dirt.
Ouch.
You don't know how many times someone has done that to Lydia, but you know that she's talking from excruciating experience. And Amanda Plummer is so amazing in the way that she delivers the speech that
She is. And
it just breaks your heart.
yeah, and it adds a new layer to her conversation with Anne, where Anne is just like, yeah, no, it's a jungle out there in the dating world. And also it makes it all the more wonderful when Perry refutes that. I mean, he even starts with,
We just met, made love, and broke up, all in the space of 30 seconds.
and it's just the measure of a good rom-com in my eyes is that there has to be something aspirational about it, or you have to believe, wow, love really is real. And yeah, that scene nailed it.
Absolutely. That was a beautifully written and beautifully performed scene. And I really appreciate how, honestly, that gets back to a point I wanted to also make about the filmmaking is that you notice how many long takes there are in this movie? There is an impressive amount of long takes. So this is one of those movies where you know the actors actually had to rehearse before shooting the scene.
Yeah, just lingers, and I love that about it.
Yeah, and that is why Lydia is absolutely there for him when he's in the hospital and literally making sure he has colorful sheets and nice comfy pajamas. Even though it has only been one date, you absolutely buy she is that committed already.
It's so sweet.
This movie's just very sweet. And it's genuinely heartening that you see that Jack has reached the point where it's like, it's not even that I'm taking responsibility necessarily, it's that this guy is my friend and he believed in this Grail thing.
Yeah.
I don't think I do. Even though he jokes, I'm hearing voices now, Perry will be so pleased. Even though he still has some level of cynicism in him, he is still going to go into that building where the Grail was, because we haven't even really talked about how part of Perry's delusion is believing he needs to find the Holy Grail.
Saw a picture of it in Architectural Digest, and it's a silver cup sitting on a shelf in this extremely rich man's castle in New York.
And luckily, nobody sees him breaking in because nobody looks up in New York. It's literally a quip about that. And we also see how much he has grown mentally and in a lot of ways because he's at first thinking, oh, okay, well, at least nobody's here. I should be all right. And then he sees, nope, the guy who owns this place is there. And he attempted to end it all. He didn't succeed, but he knows that if he isn't found, things are probably going to get worse. So he intentionally triggers the alarm to save him.
Well, yeah, because if he doesn't do something, the man is going to succeed at his attempt. And the old man who has possession of the Grail is also playing the role of the Fisher King here. He has everything that he ever wanted, but not what he needs, and his wound is too great. And so instead of just escaping the way that he came like he had planned, Jack goes out the front door because he knows that it'll trigger the alarm and get the guy help.
You know what this is? Growth.
Truly.
And he brings the Grail to Perry, and apparently it works. It's rather ambiguous whether or not it's actually magic or if it's just a coincidence, but there you are.
Yeah.
Either way, he's out of his catatonic coma.
So earlier in the movie, Perry is telling Jack the story of the Fisher King and how when the king was a young boy, he received a vision of the Holy Grail and was smitten with wonder, but also by hubris, thinking himself, him seeing the Grail before him meant that he was like unto a god, and he reached forward for the Grail, but the vision was in a fire. And because of his arrogance, the Grail vanished, and he horribly burned his hand and never healed. And then, as an old man, he's alone and desperately thirsty. And this fool comes in, asks him, "What ails you?" And he says, "I'm thirsty. My throat is hot, and I'm parched. And the fool finds him a cup of water and hands it to him. And that cup is the grail. And when he drinks from the water, it heals it. And the old man says, "How did you find this thing that I, in the greatest of my knights, could not find?" And the fool says, "I don't know. I just knew that you were thirsty." And then Gillian gives a nod to that. When Jack puts the silver chalice, the trophy, whatever exactly it is, on Perry's chest, and the camera is zooming in from on top of him, the reflection of the light inside the cup makes it look like it's full of water.
Again, a modernization of this story isn't the kind of thing that easily works out, but it is so beautifully executed here. And it's partial because of all the setup of these guys getting closer together and helping each other out.
I think I've been spending most of this episode trying not to tear up, and surprise, I'm getting a little bit misty.
I get it.
I mean, there are so many beautiful moments in this movie where it's kind of hard not to. I mean, honestly, this was definitely not necessarily the norm at the time either, but man, I do kind of miss when it was more commonplace to come across stuff like this that was this sincere in terms of what it was about. You know, I don't know. I feel like we are once again in this sort of period where we are achingly longing for some sincerity in our media, and we are definitely getting it here and there, but we very much feel like we're thirsting for more right now.
I'm just shocked that this managed to escape the cynicism of the 80s and the irony poisoning of the 90s.
Truly. And then I have to remind myself, despite what everything about 80s pop culture suggests to us, nonetheless, one of the biggest albums of that decade was Tracy Chapman's self-titled debut. If you know, you know.
True, but yeah, and Lydia comes back to visit him and finds his bed empty, but then finds him conducting the other patients in How About You? And they reunite and kiss. Jack gets his shit together with Anne, and like you said, they do end up streaking and watching the stars in Central Park and watching the fireworks at the end.
Am I parting them with my mind? Don't be silly, Jack. It's just the wind.
Just, yeah, I'd like to believe that all four of them are in each other's lives for the rest of forever.
I want to believe that too. It's so beautiful.
Again, Grady, thank you. Genuinely thank you for helping me be introduced to this film properly.
I'm so glad I could, and thank you for the chance to share this with everybody.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for offering the opportunity to watch this. I think I'm the only other one who's seen it before, but man, revisiting it, it was great. It's great getting to do that again. It was a beautiful film, and I think it might actually be my favorite of all of Terry Gilliam's solo directorial efforts, come to think of it, because it is one of the few that I've seen where I never get the sense that, it's bogged down by any cynicism or anything like that, even when you know it easily could have. That alone is really impressive to me. But also, it's just such a beautiful story. Even though I know all of the ways that it could easily have been botched, it somehow manages to avoid that, and really kudos to it. If for some reason you haven't come across this movie yet, please do. Just be prepared to feel a lot of feelings.
So, like we said, the story of the Fisher King is definitely one of the more obscure Arthurian legends. So, why does Arthurian legend endure?
I believe that the Arthurian legends endure because at their heart they're about how if you are brave enough and true enough to yourself, you can find the strength to do amazing deeds, even if what you accomplish does not ultimately last. It's still meaningful that you've accomplished it for however long.
And that's a lot about what this movie's about, absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of Arthurian legend is people who have the power to do good, doing good. And the whole thing of the Fisher King, like, he found the Grail because of one act of kindness from some random fool.
I suppose why this particular story from Arthurian legend endures despite not being the best known part of it is because there is something to be said about how it really does tap into the timeless message about how you can't truly undo trauma, but you can find ways to live with it. You can find ways to keep making life worthwhile for others, for yourself, rather than giving in to the pain, the madness that those wounds almost encourage you to do. The fact that this film manages to be such an effective fable in its own right about that, especially when you consider again how often deeply cynical a lot of Gillian's movies are. Yeah, I guess the word of the day for me is impressed, because I really am impressed by how this turned out.
No, absolutely. And going into what you said about how you can move on from trauma, it certainly helps if you have someone who's willing to be kind to you.
Yeah,
And-
kindness is free, people. It really is.
Absolutely. And to go off of that, I do think there is something about, ideally, we see the Knights at the Round Table as these virtuous people who we want to emulate. Like, it can be very easy to just want to settle for being ordinary, settle for being just a normal person, but we can still try to shoot for something a little bit better. Be a little kinder, be a little braver, be a little better.
Well said.
Thank you. Final thoughts?
It's a hard world out there. Find chances to be kind.
Kindness, not only is it free, but it's very easy to forget that, because cynicism and misanthropic thoughts also are, but they somehow feel cheaper, and therefore it ends up feeling like it's a tougher decision to choose a kind path, especially when you very often are surrounded by situations that basically tell you it's not worth it to even try. Every time you hear about an injustice that happens out there, every time you hear about a step backwards being taken on the road to freedom and justice for, people who absolutely deserve a break, for crying out loud, every time you hear bad news, it's so easy to just kind of emotionally check out from caring, to kind of save yourself a little bit. But that's why I think it's that much more important to, instead of letting the weight of it all just absolutely crush you, find a much more helpful anchor to work around that. And you would be surprised how effective it is, how just finding someone who cares and making sure that it rewards yourself and those around you to care, that really can help mitigate that temptation to check out on caring about the world when the world around you tells you you shouldn't, lest you be constantly let down.
No matter how shitty of a person you are, you still have the chance to do the right thing, and people are capable of change. You have to just put the work into it. It's not going to be easy with the pressures and all the cynicism, but it's possible.
And it's never too late to be a better person, and it's important to remember that all the worst people in the world want you to not be. Don't give them that satisfaction, if nothing else.
Agreed. It may not be that probable with certain individuals, but that doesn't therefore mean it's impossible.
And with all of those beautiful messages inspired by the Fisher King, all right, who has pluggables?
I am Cutie Puppy Fire on most of the socials. I like to lurk around podcasts, so give me a follow if you're down for it.
Yeah, you were just on a couple of episodes now.
Give me a follow if you're down for it.
Find me on Facebook or Instagram for little bits and pieces of my singing career that will come your way, hopefully, to give you an idea what to expect there. And also look to Casting Call Club if you're looking for any voice acting work. Bits and pieces of my work as a voice actor do exist on YouTube now, which is awesome. Not much yet, but it's growing. And also, I'm hosting a podcast of my own called The Disney Outlands, where we discuss the feature films, short films, episodes, and specials that the Disney company has produced but are not found on their major streaming platforms. So be sure to come along for the ride. Just did a watch party of the subject of our second episode, which will hopefully be finally on its way out real soon from now.
And I'm Snakebit Cat on most of the socials, and if this goes out according to schedule, it's going to be releasing beginning of Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. We'll be having links to resources in the episode information, and just if anybody out there is listening to this, if you're going through a dark time, if you're having trouble finding a way to find the motivation to keep going on, please contact these places. It is possible for things to get better. No matter how you may feel about yourself, you're not unforgivable, you're not irredeemable. You can be better and happier than you are.
And that leads very nicely into our heroes' calls to action this episode. This week we are highlighting the Trevor Project. You have probably heard of these guys before, but in case you haven't, they're one of the premier organizations that are advocating for LGBTQ youth, by providing crisis services, advocacy, research, peer support, and public education. Obviously, queer people, particularly queer youth, are at a higher risk of suicide and homelessness. And those are one of the things that the Trevor Project really tries to advocate and assist with. So if you have room in your wallets for that, please consider offering your support. And as always, you can find me at FavorVR on all the socials. And you can find this podcast on Blue Sky and technically Twitter at IAR Podcast. To help us reach the next chapter of our story, please consider donating to our Patreon, our Ko-Fi page, or the Spread the Show link below. Or if you are unable to support us monetarily in these really financially uncertain times, please consider rating and reviewing us on the podcatcher of your choice and spreading the word to any nerds in your life that might want to hear about us. We are getting back into the swing of things, and just in time for the 20th anniversary of the 2005 masterfully done Pride and Prejudice adaptation, which we will be talking about next week, as well as an interview with Julie Berry, author of Lovely War and the upcoming If Looks Could Kill. We hope you'll come join us, and remember, stories gain power in each retelling.
One day, a fool wandered into the castle and found the king alone. Now, being a fool, he was simple-minded. He didn't see a king. He only saw a man alone and in pain. And he asked the king, "What ails you, friend?" The king replied, "I'm thirsty. I need some water to cool my throat." So the fool took a cup from beside his bed, filled it with water, and handed it to the king. And as the king began to drink, he realized his wound was healed. And he looked in his hands, and there was the Holy Grail, that which he sought all of his life. He turned to the fool and said with amazement, "How could you find that which my brightest and bravest could not?" The fool replied, "I don't know. I only knew that you were thirsty." It's very beautiful, isn't it? I think I heard that at a lecture once. I don't know. It's professor. It's that Hunt.